Good day, fellow deal makers. Welcome to the Deal Scout. My name's Josh. On today's show, we're going to interview a friend of a friend. A shout out to Jared Yellen, who introduced us. He said that there's this guy named Jason who's building something really cool, and you should connect with him. So, Jason, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it. Been looking forward to getting together.
Yeah, man. All right. So we're diving in because I know you have a big investor call coming on up later on. So we got to jump right into the details of the deal. Jason,
Absolutely.
who are you?
Jason Franklin, owner operator of the Franklin Realty Group with EXP here in Houston, Texas. Have a team of about 15 agents. We'll do probably this year, we should end up right around 300 deals, plus or minus 60 million. We're in growth pattern. We've grown probably about 35% year over year for the last 4 years. And, just looking to forward to some new opportunities, new friends, and new acquaintances.
Awesome. So what are you building? When it comes to deal making, you guys are crushing it in deals. You have a great team, $60 million worth of stuff going on, and you're building something in the world of technology that's going to be a game changer. What does that look like?
Well, it's called rift.com. We've got a soft launch on it now. It's REIFT, and it stands for a real estate shift. So many of us get caught up in the day-to-day and I'm guilty of this, looking for the next deal. And we stop looking around and realizing that we've just been doing what we're doing because that's how we do it, which you and I both know in the business world, continuing to do what you've always done, because that's just how you do it, is the death nail of progress. I'll share a quick small story. I intentionally did not get into early in my career into the investment side of real estate, honestly, just because I have been guilty in the past of taking my eye off the prize and letting my main business suffer because I see something new and shiny, which I think we've all been guilty of that as well. And anyways, long story short, a good friend of mine called me up and he's like, hey, father-in-law passed away, mother's going into long-term living. We need to get rid of this house. And it just so happened I knew this house extremely well because it was in my neighborhood. And he's like, I was like, hey, you know what? I got a stack of investors. I'll be happy to get you guys top dollar. He's like, nah, I want you to do it because it's our family home. We want, respect paid to it. We know that you'll do it right. And I was like, all right, fine. And probably the worst thing that could have happened. And that is it went amazingly well. It was my first flip and hit it out of the park, made a ton of money. And anyways, so having lived in this neighborhood, I'm sitting there that night and I'm talking with my wife because we got the appraisal back and I'm like, babe, that house is 1,000 square feet smaller than ours. It's got 2 less bedrooms. It's got all this other stuff and it appraised for this number, which means our house has got to be worth like this much. And she's like, yeah, I know, but I'm not selling my house. I like my house. And I was like, well, and that's cool. But if somebody shows up at the front door with a bag of cash, get a suitcase,
Yeah.
And anyways, then I really started thinking about it. I'm like, how many people, and keep in mind, this is like right in the throes of COVID. So this is June of 21. So anyways, and I'm thinking how many people aren't selling their house because it's too expensive. They're scared of the process. They don't want 1,000 people coming through their home with sticky fingers and looking at all the pictures of the kids on the walls, and COVID, in my opinion, fast forwarded our society in its secular nature by about 20 years, kind of just that withdrawing from public eye, and then when you combine that with the fact that, and these numbers are crazy, 42% of all buyers last year were under the age of 40, right? So
what percentage?
42% of all buyers last year were under the age of 40.
Wow.
And this is a populace. So, and I'll date myself. I remember the first time I saw the internet. Right.
Yeah.
But these buyers are coming up. And when you think about that 42%, what we really have to think about is that, okay, today they're under 40. In 10 years, 60% are under 50. And it's that same populace that's coming forward. They eat online. They get their Wendy's delivered online. They date online. They don't even go to the grocery store anymore. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, there's a major piece of what we're doing in real estate that's missing, and so I have to say that being an agent myself, so I'll circle back. I came up with this idea for Rift, which is quite frankly, and you can Google this and a lot of people have claimed this, but I call it Tinder for real estate. So you as a consumer can go on and list your home for sale on our platform in under 5 minutes. Get your pictures done, but as far as technically putting into the platform, super easy. Well, buyers then go on the platform, they do a search like they would on any MLS. Hey, I'm looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I want to spend this much. This is where I'm looking. Well, then they see the properties that match them. They can do a request to make an offer. So this is just like trying to connect with somebody. So the sellers then get notified, hey, you've matched with these 7 buyers. Oh, and by the way, this guy's got a budget of 400. They can close in 15 days. This person's closing in 45 days. They've got a budget of 300. Well, at that point, the seller decides who they would like to have a conversation with based on just the general approvals of these buyers. So they pick the 1, 2, or the 3 people they want to talk with. At that point, buyer and seller are now communicating through our platform, and they can make their entire deal structure put together. At that point, it's then referred to one of our partner agents, and it sells at an only 2% commission. So what part of the world you in right now? You're in California, right?
No, heck no. I'm in Florida, the great country
that's
of
right.
Florida.
Thank you. Okay, but what's your average price point there where you live?
Oh gosh.
Around 4?
I haven't been checking it, but we're just about to put our primary residence up for sale, and the prices are ridiculous. So we're looking for comps, and every day the comps are going up because everybody's coming to Florida. But I have no clue where to even start. We focus more on the commercial side, so I have no clue, to be honest.
Let's just say if you're in a relatively popular area in Florida, you probably, for a 1,700 square foot house, you're probably pushing anywhere from 4 to 550. So just for easy math, let's call it 500, right? So at 500, the 4% variance of what we're charging is a $20,000 variance in cost of transaction. And we're still providing all of the legal services, all of the documentation, all of the representation, everything's there. What we're doing is we're removing all the fluff. The fact of the matter is that the United States has the most prolific real estate market in the world. And we're still conducting real estate in a 1950s capacity.
Yeah. I think this is how everybody, so I think there's some people who are traditionally, used to using an agent, right? Now I own a real estate brokerage. I've been in, real estate for 20 something years. And this is my approach. Before I list with myself or even with someone else, I'm going to try to do it on my own, because I'm looking at 6% commission, 500 grand. I'm like, that's money. That's extra money in my pocket. And I think everyone starts there. And then some people, or they might move because of death, family, divorce, whatever the case may be. Different pressures cause different things. But I think everybody starts with, I'm going to try to do it on my own. Right?
No, and you're exactly right. And the problem that we have right now is Zillow, Realtor.com, Open Door. That's a train wreck. Any of these different platforms, unfortunately, it's a regurgitation and a masking the MLS system. So you're still beholden. So like you can't even list a property on the MLS without offering a buyer's agent commission. You can't. And so the thing is that what we're offering is a organic opportunity for buyers and sellers to come together to transact real estate while still enjoying the benefits of all the legal documentation, the title work, and everything else, but at a drastically reduced fee, because we're allowing them to really cut out the middleman and come together organically. And so we're starting in Houston, obviously. This is where I'm at. Once we've got proof of concept, we're going to be going for our national broker associations. So we want to be partnering with a national brokerage, and then we'll take it nationwide. Yeah. This is a $1 billion company in 48 months.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Man, I'd love to see that happen as you guys build and grow. Before we just go into like the building path of how to build a tech company and such like that, which I know that we're time crunch, so we might not even get there. That might have to be a follow-up conversation. Okay. But let's address the monkey in the room. The elephant in the room is, here you are, you got 15 agents. You're a real estate professional. Your livelihood depends on real estate commissions and transactions to happen. You guys are doing 60 million in deal flow. Mm-hmm. You're building something that eliminates some of that. What are your thoughts there?
So, when I pitched this, with my original investors, that was the very first, they're like, man, I love this. I mean, I can honestly say, and this is not a pat on the back to me, this is just credit to the idea, is that I have not pitched this to anyone that didn't say, why don't we already have this? But then the second question to them always is, I get making this, but why would you make it? You're an agent.
Mm-hmm.
And so my answer on that is, this is coming whether we want it or not. You're not going to stop the forward movement of technology. You're not going to stop the antiquated way that we're doing things right now. And I can either go down with the ship or I can set it on fire and get in a lifeboat.
Yeah.
And the reality is that even though it's a drastically reduced commission structure, when we have our affiliations with the agents in the different areas that we're working with, if we're hand delivering them a buyer and a seller, it's already negotiated, go do the paperwork. You're going to make a drastically reduced fee, but your deal flow is so much higher because you're not out running the streets. 60%, check this out. 60% of all buyers last year hand delivered the home that they ultimately purchased directly to their agent.
Say that again.
60% of all buyers hand delivered the home that they ultimately purchased directly to their agent. They said
they're doing the work of the real estate agent.
Yeah, because the information's there. I mean, think about this. In 1985, we didn't have Google. We didn't have GPS. We didn't have smartphones. You had to know every back street, every alley. You had to know your market. Today, I could come, if you're like, hey, Jason, I'm going to sell my house in Florida. Do you know a guy? I can get on the phone, vet 15 different agents, take a 25% referral commission, and talk to you about, hey, they're building a new Costco down the street from your house. This is what the schools look like. This is what the local economy is. The fact of the matter is that we're not needed in the same capacity that we were 20 years ago. Now, you're never going to stop the agents that are really good at building relationships and that are good at building trust within their market. So we're not ever going to get rid of, and nor do I want to get rid of what we have. What I'm saying is the people that are trying to do FSBO on Zillow.com or on Realtor.com or one of these others that have zero representation, I think, and don't quote me on this, but if I'm not mistaken, that the average person that does FSBO right now is end up selling their house about 12% below market value.
Yeah.
Because they just don't have the expertise.
Yeah. And FSBO, for people listening in, for sale by owner, they call it FSBOs. You see a sign in the front yard, for sale, and it's written in marker a lot of times. And they're like, call this number, text this number, and you have to you can't really see it. So those are FSBO signs. That's where agents get a lot of their business.
It is.
So 12% under market value.
Correct.
What other things have you seen? So lower purchase price. What other things kind of arise without some type of representation?
Well, first of all, pricing is key, right? I mean, like in our market right now, we've seen multiple markets. We've seen high prices with high interest rates because nobody's buying. We've seen high inventory with high rates. We've seen low inventory with low rates. Right now in the Houston market, which is the same in probably your market as well, is that we've got high interest rates, but we still have low inventory. Mm-hmm. So people are still buying. The deal flow has slowed down quite a bit. But the fact of the matter is that we saw a major pullback in the market 6 months ago. But then they came to understand that rates aren't going back down right away. And oh, by the way, you still need to own a home. What's the old thing that's going on right now? Marry the house, date the rate. I mean, so, you can always, you can refi it later if you need to, but the fact of the matter is you're paying rent. The interest on rent is 100% all the time. I mean, so when you think about that, so really what I'm talking about is that it's a lack of knowledge on what the market is. It's a pretty significant change in overall price capture. But then also there's the legalities. There's the, where do I go next? I mean, yeah, cool. You want to sell it for sell by owner. Do you have a title company relationship? Do you understand the processes? Do you understand the inspection periods? Do you understand, the legalities of, first of all, the paperwork, the documentation? It's not that easy unless it's something that you habitually do regularly. Mm-hmm. It's a process. I mean, the fact of the matter is, when you're talking $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 transactions, it's not something you do just like, I met a guy in the corner. He wants to buy my house. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
It's a transaction.
Yeah. It's complex. And
it is.
I mean, check this out. Like, I've been a broker for maybe 20 years now. Mm-hmm. And I read through some of these things and I go, this is something you have to talk. We still have to go when someone asks us a question, you need to talk to your real estate attorney, or, there's still things that I have no clue about that I have to
Sure.
bring in an attorney to do. And I've even asked my attorney, and they go, no, you got to ask your CPA, right? So like there's this whole train of things. So like, especially this is the largest transaction some people will ever do in their life,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're helping bridge the gap between a FISBO with like maybe no representation
Sure.
and
Mm-hmm.
maybe an agent. So you might be this middle ground where people can do it, want to do it. Maybe some, they want to get that out. Is that the place that you feel like you're finding traction?
That's a piece of it. And I'll
Uh-huh.
tell you the truth, though. The other piece of it that really led me down this way, are you familiar with wholesaling?
Oh yeah, I love wholesaling.
So do I. But it is in my opinion, and again, I want to really clarify the statement before I make it, 'cause I'm gonna piss some people off, is that there is a right way and a wrong way to do everything in life. And wholesaling is, by my opinion, one of the largest unknown, unregulated markets in the US.
So describe what wholesaling is for people who
Sure.
who aren't familiar with the wholesaling process, and
Mhm.
then your opinions on why it could be done right or wrong.
Absolutely. So, okay, we talked about for sale by owner and not really understanding market value, not really understanding the full potential of the asset. Let's just call it an asset. All right. Well, let's use it for instance. You live in Ohio. Mom and dad live in Jupiter, Florida. They pass away. You've got a house. They've owned the house for 45 years. It's not updated. You have no intention of moving to Jupiter, and some wholesaler or wholesalers are going through and they see that there is a recent death or a recent change in ownership, a recent change in title. They're going to reach out to you. They're going to skip trace you. They're going to get on one of these different sites and find your information. They're going to call you and make an offer on the property. Now, we have to keep in mind that a wholesaler is not going to keep the property. They're a middleman. So they have to buy it low enough that they can then take their profit line, sell it to an investor. The investor is then going to invest in the property, either keep it as a long-term rental, possibly short-term rental, or just flip it and put it back on the market.
Yeah.
So you've got three different steps there. Well, the investor is never going to change what metrics work for them, right? Because I can afford to buy it here because it needs this, and I can sell it at that. Whereas the wholesaler, they can be juicing it anywhere from a couple grand. I know a guy that made 100 grand on a wholesale deal.
Wow.
And so what we're doing is we're separating that divide where we want the consumer that owns that home in Jupiter, Florida now to come to Rift and organically get value from the investors. The investors can then pay them the same amount that they would have, but it's going in the pocket of the homeowner rather than in the wholesaler. Now,
Yeah.
wholesalers serve a purpose. They do. It's relationship capital. You need to get it sold quickly. Maybe it's a pre-foreclosure. Maybe you've got tax liens. There is a time and place for that, but not at the volume that it is right now.
Interesting. So you said the good and the bad, right? So a place for it, right? I've wholesaled some properties before,
Sure.
and when I was doing it, it was like this. This is what I think you could get if you list your home, sell it, and this is the time frame based on your local comps.
Mm-hmm.
This is how much I could get you within 14 days.
Yeah.
Which do you want, right?
Absolutely. And thank you for that, though, because I do the same thing, with the few that I've wholesaled, and it's not a major piece of my business, but there are times when we're presented with opportunity where we can help somebody, and that's what we do. But
Sure.
I literally spell it out. Listen, I'm going to pay you this. I'm going to invest this. I'm going to do this. This is what it's going to cost to rehab it. This is what it would sell for, so that it's all laid out, because the only thing I can't fix is my reputation,
Oh man.
right? I mean, and when you talk about deal flow, you're only as good as your last deal.
Yeah.
And so that's really important. What I'm really trying to cut out is the unfortunate section of wholesaling where they're just taking advantage of people, quite frankly.
Mm.
If you got a $300,000 house and you're making $30,000 on the wholesale, come on.
you know, I've interviewed a lot of this would be an interesting conversation because I would love to have many different perspectives on this. So maybe the deal makers out there who do wholesaling, like I would love to hear your thoughts, your opinions on this. The dealscout.com is a great place. You can fill out a form, but let's open the dialogue on this. Is like,
Absolutely.
is there too much to make on an opportunity? So anyways, back to you, Jason, as you're building this out,
Mhm.
this is going to be a fun question. you could potentially piss off a few people, right? So you have the Association of Realtors and, typical realtors who, back in the day when I was doing residential, you list the property, throw a sign in the front yard and pray that someone, calls you, right? So you have the
Absolutely.
realtors who have gotten just used to just throwing a sign in the front yard and things sell. And then, maybe wholesalers who are, making good money on finding these properties before the investors and making a good chunk. How are you what's going on in your mind about that? Like how do you feel about that?
Well, here's the thing is that, one of my investors told me once, he said that Jason, the market always wins, right? When you're selling an investment property, the market always wins. The value is always determined by the market. And I know that there is
Mm.
more than enough room in our market for what we are building. And it's 20 years late, by my opinion. And the fact of the matter is, let me put it to you this way. Now, obviously, although we have a crazy, amazing real estate market in the US, it's also crazy regulated, right? I mean, there's a ton of hoops you got to jump through for legalities, and there's good reason for that because it's there to protect the market. But that being said, when I came up with the idea for Rift, I scoured the internet. I mean, I spent probably 2 weeks. I was like, somebody's done this, somebody's built this, this already exists somewhere. And I found it. I found it in Singapore and I found it in Finland, of all places.
Really?
And so when I investigated the company in Singapore, now granted, they've got huge market density, but they don't exactly have a crazy, amazing real estate, market. That being said, this company had done 4,000 transactions in their first 36 months
Huh.
through a like-styled platform.
How many?
4,000 transactions.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and that was somewhere between 36 and 48 months, but still, I mean, $1,000 transactions a year. That's not a small, I mean, that's beyond proof of concept.
Why do you
So
think we're 20 years behind? How come do you think why do you think the US is behind in that game?
I think it's regulations, it's lobbying, it's a lot of things. I mean, the thing is that, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but, I will quote, and by the way, this is obviously, I work with EXP, so I'll quote Glenn Sanford, the president or founder of EXP. He had a statement. He was at a Cardone event a couple of years ago, and he said, sometimes you have to break the system to figure out how to move it forward.
Yeah.
So again, I want to make sure that everybody understands that I'm not thumbing my nose at NAR at all. I mean, we're going to be full brokerage model, and this will work within the confines of the regular system. It's just a better way to do business.
Yeah.
Now,
Super cool.
here's the benefit for the realtors, though. So we have licensed realtors that'll be working with us as affiliate agents throughout the platform, and they don't have to be a part of the Rift brokerage, right? So we can take different areas, and it's not going to be like a Zillow where you got to buy a zip code. Basically you take an area and you're responsible for that area. You're getting the deal flow. But let's say you have a client that looks at a property. We all know how amazing real estate photography can be. They get out and look at the property. They're like, man, this is not what I thought it was. And they end up moving off platform. Well, now this is a lead gen system for those agents because they can now take those agents off platform and sell them a different home. So we're intentionally involving the agent in the process. We're just saying it doesn't have to be that expensive in this day and age.
So what's end game for you as you're building this out, right? You've got your team that's crushing it. You're building a tech company. What's end game for you?
End game's to build it and bring in an affiliate brokerage and then hand it off to them, quite frankly.
Super cool. Since starting this, like where are you guys at in terms, you said you just rolled out your, the Houston market and you guys are rolling out the beta in the program. Like where are you at in terms of your traction?
So we just rolled out our beta version. We've got, I don't know, 4 or 5 listings on there right now that we've only kind of a friends and family deal, internal listings, just because we want to go through all the bugs. I mean, if you've ever done anything in tech, what's the old Mike Tyson, everybody's got a game plan until they get punched in the face. I mean, so you can roll out tech, but there's always going to be a flow problem or, hey, you know what, conceptually this worked and we didn't like that. But right now, we've been very, very strategic in our partnerships and who we're working with. And I digressed. One of the things I didn't bring up that is the third prong to Rift is new construction.
Ah,
So we are partnering. Matter of fact, we've already got our first builder that has given us a verbal commitment to launch 185 new listings in the first. I should say in the first quarter, but they're putting them in right now.
yeah.
Because if you think about the metrics of what we're doing, it makes a lot of sense for builders just because of the fact that it reduces overhead and allows them market capture. They're still getting deal flow, but they're not paying 6%, or at least they're not paying 3 to 4%.
Yeah, I could see this. I've experienced working with big builders, and I could see this being a great value prop because they can upload their inventory on it, and man, they could get all sorts of buyers taking a look at it, doing the thing. So it's like almost like MLS for new construction.
Sure.
That's interesting. As you're building this out, right? How long have you been in real estate?
2014. So
Okay,
9 years.
got it. Before that, what were you doing?
It's an interesting question. So I started my professional career in big box retail. I was a district manager for the largest boating company in the US up and down the East Coast. There's nowhere on the West Coast of Florida I haven't lived. And came out of that and went and opened a business with my family that I ran for 14 years. I was a professional martial artist for 14 years. And
Really?
yes, sir.
All right, we got to talk. I know this isn't specifically about deals. What kind of martial arts?
It's called Kuk Sula. It's a national skills. It's a study of the Korean arts, knife throwing, sword, spear, archery, double sword, short sword, forms, grappling, joint locking, pretty much all of it.
So you could throw a knife, you could swing sword. Like you're not just a real estate guy. You're a ninja.
Well, ninjas are Japanese.
Oh, so sorry. I am very uneducated in this whole thing. My son, he's 5. Every night I pray, and he wants me to pray for good ninja dreams. So I just,
Hey, you know
I just
what?
like,
Good for him.
yeah.
But
Oh
no,
my
I did.
gosh.
Yeah, so I did that for about 14 years, and what was interesting, and I would have never seen the parallels, but we had a very successful school, about 250 students, in a predominantly blue collar area. And I learned very early on that, what we were charging for our martial arts classes was a third to, whatever of their monthly rent or house note. And we really had to bring a lot of value.
Yeah.
And what I found over time is that as a martial arts instructor, your job is about 60% mental health and 40% instructional, because a lot of people are bringing their kids there because, hey, he's not doing well in school, or maybe it's an adult and they're overweight, and you have to, with complete transparency and honesty, because honesty always has to come first. But what you have to learn how to do, and this is for any agent as well, is that you have to learn how to tell people what needs to be said, but you have to understand how to say it in the way that they need to hear it.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I regularly had parents when it came in, we'd have to tell them, I can help you, but you're not a good mom. You're not teaching them appropriately. You're not raising them right. You're not teaching them boundaries. You're letting them do what they want. And then you're upset because they're misbehaving in school. And so what we need to work on is the family dynamic, not just kicking and punching,
Wow. As doing this, so you helped tons of kids. Like, why did you go from that to real estate? What did that look like?
It's a great story. It's a great question. So in August 26th of 2014, I took what I call a mancation.
Yes.
My family lives up in the Texas Panhandle, and it was once or twice a year I would drive up there to see them. And it was about 11 hours one way. And so I would always go by myself because it was an opportunity really to get in my head. When you're not a husband and a father and an instructor and provider and business owner, you can kind of just really think and ideate. And anyways, I went up there. And so my entire family does martial arts. My dad's a 5th degree master level. I'm 3rd degree. My daughter's 1st degree. My son's 1st degree. Daughter's 3rd degree. Mom's 1st degree. Brother's 1st degree.
Wow.
The whole family. But anyways, I'm literally digging a ditch with my father and telling him about one of these stories, and I'm dealing with a parent. And what nobody knows at that time is that I had been considering leaving martial arts and going into real estate. And I'm telling him the story, and he stops and he leans on his shovel and he goes, Jason, you got to sell something more expensive. You're in the wrong business. Not knowing that I was already having these thoughts. And really the instigator in this thought was that, people were under the mistake. They used to come in all the time like, man, you got a great job. You come in, teach classes from 5 to 9 and go home.
Yeah.
Like, bro, I was here at 8 o'clock this morning doing the website and marketing. And, I did probably about 275 speaking engagements over the time that I had the school, talking to kids about schools and bullying and everything else. And
Yeah.
then my daughter was graduating high school and I had missed it. I had one daughter that was a freshman. My son was going into high school and my oldest daughter was graduating high school, and I didn't make the games and I didn't make the pep rallies and I didn't see the performances.
Yeah.
And I realized that I had a small moment in time to correct the story of dad was never there.
Wow.
And that was what it was. So that was August 26th. And by November, I had sold my business. I sold my house. I took all the equity I had in my house. I had enough to feed us for 6 months, and I went into real estate.
I love asking the origin stories of deal makers and the reason, the reason behind it and some of the struggles. So I really valued your story, and I'm really thankful for you sharing that. There's other stuff that you and I are going to chat about later on, but I know that we've got a few minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do this for people who are interested in learning more about the program that you're building, the shift in real estate, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's coming, right? We've seen
It
it with
is.
cars, we've seen it with houses, we've seen it, with rentals. It's
Absolutely.
coming, right? The shift in real estate and technology is coming, where people will be able to buy a house one day without ever talking to someone. Um, where could people go to find out more about you and maybe connect and do a deal?
Yeah. In fact, I'll send you a link when we get done. We've got our Facebook page at Rift. They can always look me up at the Franklin Realty Group on Facebook as well, Facebook and Instagram. Or Jason at frgrpllc.com.
And the website is it
Yes,
reift.com?
sir.
That's
Mm-hmm.
a great domain. Short 5-letter domain is great. reift.com. What's it stand for one more time?
Well, for me, it stands for a real estate shift. My
Cool.
wife, and now this is post naming it. My wife said that it actually stands for real estate in future times, but
Ooh, I like it. I like it.
it works.
Your wife is clever. I like
Yes,
it.
she is.
Well, cool. All right. So, Jason, one further question.
Shoot.
So we know how to connect with you. Are there any questions that I should have asked you during this interview that I screwed up and did not ask you?
No, man, I think you're doing great.
Thank you. You're doing great too. And one day when we connect, I'm coming down your area, maybe in April. I want you to teach
Awesome.
me how to throw a knife. All right.
More than happy to.
Sounds good. All right. So, Jason, thanks for coming on the show. Once again, shout out to our friend Jared. Fellow deal makers in the audience, as always, reach out to our guests and say thank you for being on the show and sharing your knowledge. If you have some questions for them, some follow up, maybe some guidance, their contact information will be in the show notes. If you have a deal that you would like to talk about here on the show, thedealscout.com, fill out a quick form, get you on the show next. Love you guys and talk to you all on the next episode. Bye, everybody.
All right, be great.